Was Muhammad a descendant of Ishmael? This is the third part of the series. This is Daniel Amari from the Religion Research Institute. Today we're going to be discussing biblical and historical accounts of the independent Ishmaelite tribes post 10th century BC. In particular, we're going to be discussing the Islamic claim that the Ishmaelites continued to live in Mecca after Ishmael migrated with Abraham to Mecca. As we have seen in the biblical accounts, that actually the Bible states that the Ishmaelites continued to live in Sinai all the way from Ishmael time to the 10th century BC. But in the 10th century BC, during King David's reign, the Ishmaelites split into tribes, independent tribes, and were no longer known by their Ishmaelites, but by their independent tribe names. One thing that is very interesting that we find during this period is we find actually archaeological inscriptions, in particular inscriptions such as the Assyrian inscriptions and other data such as the Thamudic inscriptions of the 8th century BC, in addition to the biblical books. And one notable thing is that these inscriptions with the biblical accounts give a unified pictures about the account of the independent Ishmaelite tribes. For detailed information, I encourage you to consult Dr. Rafat Amari's book, Islam in Light of History. The settlement, first of all, we're going to talk about the settlements and the migration of the Ishmaelite tribes. In this stage, Ishmaelite tribes were known by their individual tribes' names, names such as Qidar, Nabioth, Taima, Duma, Massa, and Abdil. Some of these tribes started to migrate out of Sinai to, from about the 9th century BC. The exception is possibly to the tribes of Qidar and Taima, which immigrated about 11th to 10th century BC. Otherwise, there was no external evidence or inscriptions of the movement for the Ishmaelite tribe or tribes before the 9th, 10th century BC. The migration of these tribes from their Sinai origin to the new settlement in the Transjordan or to the Syro-Mesopotamian desert, and as south as Taima, north of Arabia. Several observations about these tribes. Number one, these tribes were all nomadic. Some of them were traders, and they trade, such as, for example, the tribe of Nabioth. None of them went to the areas around Mecca, or even Yemen, or the areas that Mecca was later built. The Ishmaelites actually had a religious center, and the Ishmaelite tribes had their religious center in northern part of Sinai, and it was called Bir Lahai Roi. It was located in southwest of the city of Beersheba, about 13 miles of Kadesh Barnea. Ishmaelite tribes used to make pilgrimage to that center because that's the place they believed Ishmael lived, in Sinai, in northern part of Sinai. The Ishmaelites never exhibited the philosophy of monotheism. In fact, they were polytheists, worshippers. They were worshippers of primitive idols. So the question is, what happened to the Ishmaelite tribes? Well, the answer is extinction. And it starts from the 8th century BC. In the 8th century BC, Arabian tribes such as the Thamudites started to invade the southern areas indwelled by the Ishmaelites. They probably expelled the Ishmaelites north, or perhaps absorbed them, or even eliminated them. The extension of the tribes such as Qidar and Duma, as they were replaced by Arabian tribes to those in those locations. That's in the 8th century BC. In the 7th century BC, Nabioth became extinct. By the 6th century BC, due to the Chaldeans' control of the region, changes started to happen there. And in particular, Moab and Edom were no longer mentioned as sovereign political entities. Furthermore, the same for the Ammonites. At the same time, there were increased migration of Arabian tribes that absorbed and replaced the people, including the Ishmaelites. By the 5th and the 4th century BC, Ishmaelite identity was lost completely, either to extinction or to integration. The only possible exception is the tribe of Abdil, and maybe perhaps the tribe of Jetur, that will remain until the 1st century AD in Sinai. Newer tribes replaced the whole region, such as the Nabateans, who came in the 5th and 4th century BC to Transjordan and southern Syria, and also the Ghassanid and Lakhmid migrated from Yemen by the 3rd century AD. We came to the conclusion that according to history, according to the Bible, the Ishmaelites became extinct. No one came from them. No one came after them. They never went to Mecca. So that is the evidence that history, archaeology, and the Bible tells us, a unified history. This is Daniel Amari from the Religion Research Institute.